how does occasionalism not imply change in the necessary existence?
Oh, well, it does. I mean, like, we are against occasionalism. I mean, if by occasionalism you mean that God is the sole cause of everything that happens, in the world, and that everything that exists besides God is a direct proximate act of the divine. If that is what you mean by occasionalism, which is what we mean by occasionalism, so that is absolutely. I mean, from our perspective, from the perspective of the philosophers, that is absolutely invalid. We do not believe in that. Why? Because it 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 violates the rule of one. If you believe that a plurality of effects can emanate in a direct approximate manner from an absolutely simple first cause, so I mean that implies that the one qua one is simultaneously many qua many, and that is a contradiction. That is impossible. Okay, because that entails plurality of aspects, or composition within the divine essence, and everything that is a composite of parts or a plurality of aspects. I've repeated this over and over again several times, that anything that is a plurality of aspects or a composite of parts is contingent in itself, and that which is contingent in itself cannot be the ultimate principle of all reality or all being. It cannot be the first cause, and cannot be necessary in itself simultaneously. Therefore, occasionalism, from our perspective, is false. It violates the arrow. It is contrary to the doctrine of absolute divine simplicity. Therefore, we don't believe in it.
The reason for asking was that Brother Ilyas in the previous room said we believe in a form of, let's just say, indirect form of occasionalism.
Yeah, I understand what he's trying to say. Although it is better not to call it occasionalism, but I understand what he's trying to say. I think what he's trying to say, and Elias can clarify, is that everything that exists besides the necessary being is either a proximate or a remote effect or act of the necessary being. So, whatever happens in the world, from an ontological aspect, from an existential aspect, it is the doing of God. It is the act of God. Okay, strictly speaking, from an ontological aspect, from an existential aspect, because the effect of a thing is also the effect of that thing. Okay, are you getting my point? The effect of a thing is also the effect of that thing. If A causes B and B causes C, so C is not only the proximate effect of B, but it is also the remote effect of A. And A is not only the proximate cause of B, but it is also the remote cause of C. So A is the cause of both B as well as C. Are you getting my point? Therefore, my acts,
Yes.
are my proximate effects, but simultaneously, they're also the remote effects of the divine, right? So the divine is, from an ontological and an existential aspect, he is the remote cause of the acts of every human being. I mean, I'm talking from an existential aspect only, not from the moral aspect right now. So, from a strictly speaking ontological or existential aspect, the divine is the ultimate cause and principle of every effect. Okay, so my acts, basically, from an existential aspect, they are the effects, the remote effects of the necessary in itself. Okay, albeit they are my direct or proximate effects. So in this sense, if that is what Elias meant, so I agree. I mean, like, in this sense, everything is caused by God. Okay, but that does not violate or negate man's free will. Why? Because man's free will operates as a manifestation of the divine free will, because it is the divine that has determined that every act should emanate from its contingent agent, from its human agent, when all the necessary factors, factors that are necessary for existentiating that particular act, when all those factors, combine or get together and form a complete or perfect cause, such as the essence of the agent, his will, okay, pertaining to that particular act, and his ability or the power to cause that particular act. These are three distinct factors. So the act of every human agent, it it is realized, when the essence of the agent, gets together along with the will to perform that particular act and the ability to existentiate that particular act. If either one of these three factors is missing, the act would not be realized. And the essence of the agent would be an incomplete cause with respect to that particular act. It only becomes, the perfect cause of the act is only realized by a combination of all these three factors, which is the essence of the agent, his will to perform that act, and his ability, to existentiate that act. Yes.
Yes, it does make sense, but I would have to say that it is a bit more complex than direct occasionalism. So,
Oh
don't you
no,
think
I
that
agree.
according to Occam's razor, you would have to, you should prefer direct, the direct approach more?
Oh no, no. I've already explained why the direct approach is contrary to the kind of tawheed, to the kind of the doctrine of divine unity that we uphold, because we believe that the necessary in itself is an absolutely simple reality. And if you posit that the necessary in itself is an absolutely simple reality, then you cannot, I mean, like, it is not appropriate to assert that it is approximate or the direct cause of a plurality of effects for multiple disparate entities. Why? Because that would mean that the one qua one is simultaneously many qua many, because the aspect from which any one particular effect emanates cannot be the same aspect from which the other effects emanate. Okay, because there is a mutual ontological sympathy between the causal aspect and the effect, okay, which that emanates from that particular causal aspect, and this mutual ontological affinity cannot be shared by another effect. Okay, otherwise there would not be any plurality. In order to for there to be plurality, there has to be otherness and differentiation and distinction. Without otherness, differentiation, and distinction, there can be no plurality. Okay, and in order and this distinction or differentiation or otherness, implies a plurality of aspects within the principle of all reality, that is the necessary being. Okay, and if the necessary being were a plurality of aspects, so it would not be necessary in itself, it would become contingent and something delimited. Hope that explains it.
Yes, I have heard this before. Uh, well, I have many questions, but let's just say for now, I want to know why is divine simplicity so crucial to the necessary existence?
Obviously, I mean, I'm sure Ilyas and Azdak as well can address this question, but I would like to answer this myself. That when if the necessary in itself were not absolutely simple, then it would have to be something composite, and if it was something composite, so a composite by its very definition is, its existence is constituted by something, by its parts. So it is dependent upon its parts for the subsistence of its reality. And that which is dependent upon another cannot is necessary through another, and thus cannot be necessary in itself, as that would be a contradiction in terms. It's as simple as that.
Yes, that makes sense. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.